Wherever you guys are, I hope you're having a wonderful day. This is your girl, Essie. I know it's been a minute, so I want to just come on here. Today, we're going to talk about caregiver burnout and boundaries. You know, I got my notes, so let me go ahead and just put that in there. And I know it's a Saturday evening, so I'm going to repeat this again tomorrow at a different time, hopefully, to try to get some people, I haven't talked to in a while to see how everybody's doing. And I know it's been a minute. We're going to talk about some of the things that have been going on and some of the things that I've been encountering. So let me just finagle with some of the things on here. Yeah, you know what? I don't think it's been a while since I've actually fooled with the YouTube live. So just trying to remember how to get things on here while okay. All right, while I fool around with this. And if you saw the board, they don't have a board or anything on here, which I think is interesting. Let me just see what this one is. Green screen. I don't think I want a green screen. Okay, no, I don't want a green screen. I think I'm good without the green screen. So we're going to talk about some of the things that caregivers are experiencing. It's the beginning of the year, and we are talking about setting boundaries as well as burnout. We're going to talk about the burnout section first because I think that's really important. I'm hearing from a lot of caregivers that they are experiencing burnout and they are trying to walk away from, their responsibilities as far as, what's going on. And let me see. Let's start a um, poll. Why don't we do that? Are you a caregiver experiencing burnout? And let's see if we can get you guys who jump on to respond to this, okay? And so we're going to start with that and just put that right there. And so that's what we're talking about. This first part, we're going to talk about caregivers experiencing burnout. If you're someone who is a caregiver to a loved one, or if you have chosen this as a profession, you experiencing burnout is a serious thing because burnout isn't weakness. It means that your nervous system is responding to prolonged responsibility without relief. So all this time you've been going, 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 and you really haven't taken time for yourself and, purchased some kind of personal package. And when I say purchase, I don't mean with funds, but just taking the time, buy out time so that you have the capability to say, you know what, this is going to be my rest time. This is going to be a time that's just for me because I have burnout and I need as a caregiver to make sure that I am not in any way suffering. For those of you guys who are joining, thank you so much. I have a poll up. Tell me if you're a caregiver experiencing burnout. If it's been a while since I've talked to you, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll be back on more frequently now, but I am excited to be back. I know it's been quite some time and we haven't talked about caregivers. Hi, how are you, John? It's good to talk to you. I have been experiencing my own trials, right? And so it has been, hey, how are you? True Frame. It's good to see you. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for the thumbs up, the likes. Please continue to tap like and tap the screen. So let me tell you what happened. I always say you cannot, thank you so much, Adrian. You cannot experience and you cannot be a caregiver and you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Well, I took my advice to a degree, but not fully. Around September, after I got back from Africa, I started getting a little bit sick and I started getting tired. And I thought it was because, sometimes with international travel, sometimes you may have gotten a bug that you didn't expect to get. I've had that before. And here I am thinking, okay, I've gotten sick and that's the reason why. But that really wasn't the case. I had a health issue that I needed to address, and it went on for about 3 months. Now I'm at a point now where I'm just starting to feel like myself again, right? I'm just starting to get my energy back because, as a caregiver, I was focusing once again on everybody else but me. And I always tell you guys not to do that, right? If you watch my channel, I always talk about pouring from an empty cup. So if you're on here, answer the poll. Are you a caregiver experiencing burnout? Have you ever been in a situation where you were always giving to other people and you are not taking care of yourself. The first part of this live, that's what we're going to talk about. And remember to let other people know that our channel exists. What I'm hearing a lot of in my business as far as caregiving is that we are giving so much of ourselves. And hi to everybody who joined. Thank you so much. Thank you for hopping on. This is a Saturday evening. There's so many other things that you guys are going to be doing later on today. So thank you for taking some time talking to me. Thank you. Hi, Taylor. How are you? And so we want to make sure that if you are a caregiver, if you're experiencing burnout, there are some things and techniques that you can put into place in order to help you through these issues. Because caregiving is difficult enough, but it's a necessity. Hi, Angel. How are you? It's good to. I'm good. I can't complain. I can't complain now. And y'all did not log on to hear me complain, right? And that's not what I'm going to do. We're going to talk about caregiver burnout because that's what my channel is about. I am a caregiver. Hey, Kaden, how are you? I am a caregiver to my mom who's immobile. It is a family responsibility, and I'm fortunate to have a family that cares and loves her. I mean, I'm insanely in love with my mom. So this woman is getting the care that I need because you know what? I am a caregiver and it's fine. I'm fine. But there are many caregivers that I talk to who don't know hotel. I try to be. I try to make it light because you know what? This is a serious topic, right? I can't tell you how many caregivers, Taylor, that I talk to who have burnout and who are walking away from giving care to their loved ones because they don't have a support system in place and they are literally burnt out and nobody appreciates the work that they do. And I think all of us can identify with that. How many times have you put your effort into something only to be neglected or someone not even say thank you or appreciate the work that you do, right? And so that doesn't sit well with me. And I know it doesn't sit well with you all because you all can empathize with a caregiver who has to go through that. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, surfboard. And so people can identify with what it's like to not feel like, people recognize who I am. People see me for the work that I do. And here I'm rendering services to this care recipient, and they really, 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 really don't care. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Taylor. I try to care. So that's what we do. So let's get into it. If you are a caregiver experiencing burnout, please take the poll. Let me know if you are and what you do in the comments in order to prevent burnout. Sometimes, and we're only going to go through 10 examples of burnout that you could experience. And let me tell you something. This is tailored toward caregivers, but there are other areas in your life where you will experience burnout. You could be working a full-time job and you just simply not happy. I mean, simply not happy. And you're like, you know what? I'm done. I have burnout. I've been there. Many people go there. So some of this information that we're going to share is for people in everyday life too. We all experience burnout from time to time. And so one of the things, constant exhaustion after sleeping. So you're tired. You wake up tired. How many of us have done that? I woke up tired today. All I wanted to do is just curl right back in my bed and just go for round two, maybe even round three. I did not want to get up out of my bed this morning because I woke up tired. You're like that, Taylor? Many people experience that, right? We just don't feel like it because we have burnout. We're mentally exhausted. And so what we do is take micro rest, right? You heard now. I'm a firm believer. Remember in kindergarten, and I don't know if you guys are here in the States, but as a kid, I would complain whenever we had to have our daytime nap. And I don't even know if they still do that in kindergarten. My kids don't talk about it. And they're a lot older, so they wouldn't remember. But anyway, make a long story short, those little pre-K or kindergarten afternoon naps that they used to make the kids take, or if you're in daycare, you know, you needed a chart, same because I needed a chart. Yes. You sit there and you get upset because the teacher tells you to rest, and chances are as a kid, you're not going to rest. But you take those 10, 15-minute, maybe sometimes 30-minute naps and you're recharged. Well, as a caregiver, if you're experiencing exhaustion, you woke up tired. Hi, hello, Maris. How are you? You wake up tired. Chances are you need to go back for another rest. And it's not going to be an 8-hour rest because you don't have time. You're a caregiver. You've got to care for your care recipient. If you are a parent, you've got to care for your children. You're in that sandwich generation. Ay. It's a lot of stuff going on, right? And so what you do is take those 10, 15 minutes nap, that downtime, that rest where no one is calling you. right? Sometimes when we take a rest, we don't need to just go to sleep. We just need to lay our bodies down, deep breathe, sit somewhere, deep breathe, close our eyes, and I don't want to hear my name. As a caregiver, that's what needs to happen, right? Hola, no. Do I speak Spanish? Is that what you're saying? Clearly, no. I won't even embarrass myself on this live. Maris trying to speak Spanish. I won't do it. I won't do it, okay? And I apologize for that. But I don't speak Spanish if that's what you're asking me. And yeah, just taking a nap sometimes is going to recharge you if you are a caregiver. Sleep isn't enough sometimes. Sometimes you actually need to decompress. And that's what we talk about, deep breathing. Yeah, just a nap. Sometimes you just, and sometimes I'm going to tell you, I don't always sleep through the night. Well, chances are I'm not going to sleep through the night anyway. I just don't. I'm at a certain point in my life where I'm up and my brain is going a million miles a minute. I'm not on my phone, but I just don't sleep through the night. And so sometimes, somewhere during the day, I'm going to have to decompress. I'm going to have to, as a caregiver, just go somewhere, sit down, lay down, and breathe if I can't get a nap, right? And so that's another way that you can counteract always feeling exhausted until you can get your body to a point where you've decompressed and you feel a little bit better as a caregiver. Once again, don't forget to take the poll. Are you a caregiver experiencing burnout? Point number 2, emotional numbness or detachment. Now, I'm just looking at my notes. So if you see me looking down, that's because you guys don't need to see all this stuff. And we're going to go through these pretty quickly. If you're emotionally numb, you love the person that you're giving care to, but you feel disconnected from them. This task of being a caregiver is really, really great. But here's the thing, if you care for yourself, then do what you feel like doing. If you care for yourself, you're going to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, Taylor. Right? And so many of us who are caregivers, we fall into that trap. Caregiving is a huge responsibility, but if you do it the wrong way, it could be a huge burden. And that's what I don't want for a caregiver, right? I meet too many caregivers who have to step away from being caregivers, especially to their parents, because they don't take time for themselves. They experience burnout, they get overwhelmed, and then they leave. They leave. And who suffers? Eventually, obviously, the care recipient is going to suffer. But that guilt, I should have been there. I should have helped. I should have continued. But you got to set it up the right way, right? I am a full time caregiver to my mom. That is my original ride or die chick, right? I love that woman to pieces. You guys, if you've been on my lives before, I spend a lot of time with her. I love to hear her laugh. I hate to see her in pain, but for me, caregiving to her is a joy. I was a caregiver to my ex-husband, right? He was someone who suffered from a disability shortly after we were married. And we were married for almost 21 years at that point. And that was maybe not as joyous at times. However, you try to make the best of the situation, but in every scenario, I've learned the importance of making sure that I take care of myself. And when I make their appointments, I factor in my time too. I have to. I have to, because that's how you set yourself up. Now, if you are a caregiver and you are experiencing burnout, if you're experiencing emotional numbness or detachment, that means that you have forgotten that you are someone outside of caregiving. How many of us have done that? I remember when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, and I'm always going to tell y'all a story because I like to show you how this relates, this information. People begin to address, when your woman gets to a certain point, let's say I'm 8, 9 months, I used to have friends that would come over and I would people be rude and bully people and they know it's not. You got that right. Let me tell you something, Taylor. I used to be like about 8, 9 months pregnant. I say it's 10 months because 40 weeks gestational period for a baby is 10 months. But if I'm wrong, then somebody else enlighten me. I don't know how doctors say 9 months, but this is not what this live is for. So we're going to go into something else. So people used to come over to me and they would rub my belly and forget that I was even standing there. Yeah, they would do that. They come over, talk to her as if she could hear them and see them and speak back through my womb. And they would rub my belly. I'm standing there. They, hi, baby, how are you? And then I had a couple of them. My friends just walk away after they speak to her, and she didn't even respond. She couldn't. But you're going to walk away from me, and I'm the one carrying her, right? And so people, not that it was intentional, but people forget. And after she was born, I no longer became me. Okay, I have no idea what happened. My live just blooped out. That's weird, right? Never had that happen before. But anyway, people would not address me after I had her. They always referred to me, oh, that's so and so's mom. I lost my identity. And sometimes as a caregiver, you can lose your identity and you will become emotionally numb. That's a signal that you need to regroup how you were handling things and realize, hi, how are you, Taylor? My YouTube just shut off. I had never had that before in a live, but there's a first time for everything. We move on. We log back on, we resume, we move on. We listen, we don't judge. How about that? But it wasn't my fault. I did pay my bill, I think. I know. Anyway, so we lose our identities as caregiver and not the person that we were before we were caregivers. We forget who we were. So everybody, you have your likes, your dislikes, your dreams, your goals, your aspirations, your things, your hobbies. Do them. Do your hobbies. I am a crocheter. I love to crochet. I've got my yarn over here, right? Because I'm in my room doing this live. I do my hats, my scarves, and things like that because I don't want to lose who I am. I like to sing. I love to sing. I've sung at my oldest daughter's wedding, the same one that I was caring about when I talked about this story just a few minutes ago. And so I love to sing. They asked me to sing at her wedding. I love to sing. If I was so consumed in caregiving that I would forget how much I love singing, then I'd be losing my identity. Does that make sense to people? Does that make sense to you all? I hope so. So sometimes when you experience that emotional numbness and detachment, it's because you're losing your identity as a caregiver. And you don't want to do that. You are just as important as your care recipient. You taking care of yourself is just as important as you taking care of your care recipient. So are you a caregiver experiencing burnout? If you register or in your my channel, then you'll see that we offer services to help you. My grandma loves things like cups and shirts, and yes, yet making things. Yes, Taylor, I love crocheting. I never really learned how to knit. I sew just a little bit. I do have a machine. I'm not that dangerous on it, but I'm going to get there one day because I am completely hopeful that at some point I'm going to have time to really take a sewing class or two and really get things under my belt. But what I don't want to do is lose my identity because I'm a full-time caregiver, because I'm also a mom, a wife, because I also, make sure my husband's fine. He makes sure that I'm fine, make sure that, the needs of the house are fine. And I work full-time and I've launched a couple businesses. So I don't want to lose my identity. And as a caregiver, you don't want to do that either. What about irritability and being short tempered? What about that? Because that's also important as a caregiver to make sure that you're not experiencing burnout. That's a sign that you are experiencing burnout. And here's how small things trigger big reactions. So there are times when someone's flustered that something you could say to them when they're evenly killed and normal would just roll off their back and be fine, right? But then when someone is irritable and they are short-tempered, they've got to recognize, you have got to recognize as a caregiver what that trigger is. Because if it's something that's triggering you being angry and irritable, you've got to address it. It could be the way that people are speaking to you. It could be the way that people are depending on you. It could be the way that you are perceived, that you have everything and you're strong enough to deal with it. And that could be a trigger. We're going to get into setting boundaries the second half of this live. And so stay tuned for that because we want to set boundaries as caregivers. We want to make sure that people understand that we are not that strong. We are caregivers, but we are also human, right? And sometimes people think that we can handle everything. So sometimes you have to step away from people. Tell them you need a moment before you respond. And I'm going to tell you that's something that you could use in everyday life. And I tell you why. How many situations do you think would be avoided today if people, when something happens, instead of using that as a trigger and flying off the handle, if people actually took a moment, took a breath, realized that they need to step away from the situation for a moment and pause before they responded? If we all put that into practice, it is a self-calming technique that we use as caregivers. If we didn't one, if we did that more often, a lot of things, actually a lot of scenarios would be prevented from happening because you would realize that this should not be a trigger for you and that things could be avoided. And you could possibly talk things out, which is also important as a caregiver. What about guilt for wanting time away? So my mom I love her to pieces. I guess I've told you that. So she did the mom guilt trip. When I started traveling a little bit more, I would get the, oh, why do you have to leave? I don't like it when you go away. She really did lay the mom guilt trip on me, but I had to help her realize that rest as a caregiver is not selfish. It allows me to recharge, refresh, get my health, my life together, not lose my identity, enjoy doing the things that I like to do, and then come back recharged and ready to give her good care. And so once you have those conversations, keep going as a caregiver. That's what we all want to do, but you got to make it sustainable for you. You as a caregiver, you have to make it sustainable. You don't want to be put in a situation where this becomes your life. This is the only thing you do. There's a whole world out there. I know you guys have heard, I sound like a Disney movie, don't it? There's a whole world out there that you should be living and experiencing, and not limiting yourself just to being a caregiver, because you have your own identity and you don't want to suffer from burnout. Travel. Don't let other people or your care recipient feel like you taking time off is something that you should be guilty about. Rest for you as a caregiver is actually being proactive, right? Because sometimes you've got to step away in order to refresh and recharge and then come back. Resentment toward the care recipient or family. You had to say, why am I the only one doing this? You have a family, and let's say you've got one mom or one dad, and you have six siblings, and only one sibling is doing the work of caregiver. And there are scenarios, I've met many people like that. In a family of eight siblings, only one or two are doing the majority of the caregiving work and assignments. And the other six are just sitting by, not helping. They say either I'm not able, you have more time, and we'll get into that too, as far as setting family boundaries. And so you start to feel resentment because you are the only one giving that care to the care recipient, even though there are other people out there that could be tapped in for support or resources. And sometimes it goes beyond just rendering physical care. If you're rendering physical care, you may fall into giving emotional care, financial care to the care recipient. And so then you start experiencing burnout because it's all on you. So if you're a caregiver, are you a caregiver experiencing burnout? Take that test or that poll and let me know if you're a caregiver experiencing burnout. And tell me in the comments how you handle that. What do you do to avoid, burnout if you're a caregiver? Tell me what you do. Another point, loss of patience and compassion fatigue. You're doing the job, but you're emotionally depleted. You're just tired. Sometimes a person can look very healthy, but be emotionally and mentally drained. Be drained. And sometimes that is the problem because you're not rotating and delegating responsibilities of care. All the emotional, burden is on you when you have a care recipient who keeps laying and dumping on you emotionally, right? It's all on you. You're the only one carrying the load. So you've got to seek peer or professional help in order to help you deal with that. How do you deal with that? I'm going to tell you what I do. So, for some reason, I grew up this way because this goes back as far as I can remember since I was probably a teenager. I'm going to say around that period, and that's been quite some time ago. I used to have people that I would just meet, and from the first minute of talking to them, they told me all of their business, right? We'd go from one point all the way to current as we are sitting there where they what they're doing, and I would be surprised. Like, you just met me and you told me everything about everybody in your life within 5 minutes because it's a rapid download, right? And so what I've had to do as a caregiver, carrying a lot of emotional responsibility as well as physical responsibility, is say, you know what, I can't do this right now. And I've done that with friends from time to time. Friends who call me, and I could be in the middle of something. I could be having a horrible day, horrible moment. And I've got to say, you know what? I can't do it. I can't do it right now. I can't take on more emotional pain right now. Now, I can call you back, but just give me a minute. Let me get myself together. I very rarely am the type of person to stay down. When I lost my dad, and that was sudden about 3 years ago, I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't help anyone out emotionally because Goodness knows I was in my own emotional place and I needed support myself. So, those are things that we as caregivers have to do. We have to make sure that we are rotating responsibility, delegating responsibility. Do you do that? Because if you don't, you could be experiencing burnout. Let's be real. Physical symptoms of burnout for a caregiver: headaches, your stomach hurts, you have muscle pain because your body is holding on to stress. You're not letting go of that stress. And that's so important. You got to make sure that you're able to take your walks, breathe, stretch, take care of your physical health, eat right. Sometimes those early warning signs of stress are there, but you ignore them. You ignore them. And that's not healthy or beneficial to anybody, especially not you, because the more you ignore it, the more you get stressed out, you're going to start snapping at the care recipient. You're not always going to make yourself available. Now you got an attitude. The person asked you to do something that you do normally anyway, right? Can I have something to eat, or is it lunchtime? And then you snapping back because you are stressed out. And that happens because you're human. And so you want to make sure that that's something that you can address and make sure that that is not the early stages of burnout for you, which it could be. What about you forgetting things? Now, all of a sudden, you having difficulty concentrating and you've got brain fog all the time. You've missed details. You no longer remember that that person, your care recipient, had a doctor's appointment because you got burnout. And if you don't remember the care recipient's appointments, you know you're not going to remember yours, right? Because you got burnt out. Because you've let things go so far and you're so stressed out that now your brain fog and your lack of concentration is stopping you from remembering to set appointments, to put it in your phone, to set alarms, to write down routines, to set up that system. Don't concentrate and think that what you need as a caregiver is only willpower alone. So what I do is when I set an appointment for myself or my mom, I write it down. In fact, if we're at the doctor's appointment, I put it directly in my phone. I do a week out alarm and then I do an hour alarm, depending on how far away I am from the place. If I need a 2 hour alarm, I put a 2 hour alarm before the appointment in my phone immediately. Because if I don't do it, right then and there, I may have brain fog and I may have difficulty remembering and concentrating because 2 weeks from now or a month from now, when the actual appointment is, I may be going through something and rendering care or working full time, being a wife, a mom. I might be tired. And as a caregiver, I can't afford to miss her appointments or mine. My health is just as important as her health. And so, one of the things this past, I've been off of YouTube for so long because I neglected my health. And so now I'm just getting to the point where I'm starting to feel like myself, but I've had to realize how important it is. Make those appointments, keep those appointments. I cannot take care of her and address the needs of other people if I don't take care of myself, because my needs need to be addressed too. Another point: feeling trapped or hopeless. This will never end. I'll always be a caregiver. You ever felt that way if you're a caregiver? Let me know. Put it in the comments. I want to hear from you. This is a never ending responsibility. I'm always going to be a caregiver from here on out. Well, sometimes that means that you need to adjust your mindset. Yeah, you feel that way, Taylor. Yeah, sometimes we all do. It's hopeless. And then you couple that feeling with seeing how your loved one is deteriorating health wise. They're not the people or the person that you remember. They're not. They're going through something. Sometimes I try to use empathy when I look at my mom and I say, well, wait a minute. If I'm like my parents and I am going to be impacted or inflicted with a lot of the ailments that they themselves are experiencing, I could be her in 20, 25 years. I could be my mom. And I'm going to want my children to have empathy for me. It's not indefinite. It's not going to be something that happens all the time. Unfortunately, this is the period and cycle of time that we're in. But I need a plan in place. And see, that's where delegating responsibility will help. Because when I'm able to get away, regroup, rest, reset, relax, then this isn't something that's going to bother me because I realize, as far as my mom is concerned, she can't get away. I'm enjoying my life. I'm still actively involved in things that I'm interested in, but I'm still able to come back here refreshed to render care for her. And so that's something that we need to think about too as caregivers so that we don't have burnout. Isolation and withdrawal. You start withdrawing from your own life as a caregiver. You got things like, people who ask you, can I help you? And you, no. Let me tell you one of the biggest mistakes. Let me explain something to you as caregivers. One of the worst things that you can do as a caregiver, when someone comes to you and say, I want to help you, and you say, I got it. Now you know you don't have it all the time, right? I want to help. What can I cook a meal? No, I'm okay. See, caregiving is very much a we thing, an us thing. It has to be in order for you as a caregiver not to experience burnout. It has to be that way. You have to let people in. You've got to let people in and find out where they hit and where they fall. And what I mean by that, somebody come to you and say, "Let me help you." Well, let me tell you what I need. Let me tell you what I need help with. Can you cook a meal? Now, let's be honest. Some people come to you and you don't want them cooking you a meal. You wouldn't eat over their house if they paid you. However, for the most common person, the friend of the family, somebody you've been knowing all your life and you know the habits of that person, or someone who's a really good friend and they know you and they know that you need to rest and you won't let them in and you suffer burnout, that's your error, unfortunately. We got to let people in if you're a caregiver, because when you isolate and withdraw from society, withdraw from people, you in essence are hurting the care recipient, but you're also hurting yourself. You're hurting your care recipient because you're not performing at top notch as a caregiver. You're not. There's no way you can because you're tired. You're exhausted. You're flipping out. You're angry. You're snapping at them. But then you're hurting yourself because you definitely aren't getting the rest and relaxation that you need as a caregiver. You've got massive burnout. And then you're sitting there wondering why, because you haven't let people in and told them what you need help with, even though they keep offering. You have the capability of having a wonderful support system, but your pride won't let you let people in. There are a lot of caregivers that I talk to that don't have the opportunity to have a support system. They don't. They have no one. And there are times when they have a family dynamic where there are multiple siblings and the siblings don't even want help. So if you have that capability, don't let your pride or just not wanting to get people involved cause you not to let people in. Okay? So let's see. We did that question. Let's put another one up here if I can remember how to do the poll again. Let's do a Q&A. Okay? Let me see if I can figure out how to do this one again, because I'm not good with okay. Well, look, let's just leave it up there. Let's move to boundaries, okay? I'm learning as I go, people. I'm learning as I go. I don't think I've ever done a question and answer or a poll. So let's learn as I go. We'll hit that next time, okay? We'll do the poll next time. Now, family member boundaries. That's another thing that caregivers have to contend with, because sometimes family members are the people that can cause you to have burnout as a caregiver. Boundaries are not a punishment. They're an instructions on how you as a caregiver want to receive care while you render care to the care recipient. That's something that I like saying. You are the best at this. No one else can do it like you. Have you ever heard that? So there's a family member who, they offer to help, but they're telling you, you do it better than I do. So you go right ahead. We're not going to interfere. We're going to let you handle it all. And so that's when you say, I do this well, but I have limits. This is a shared responsibility. So this is what I need your help with, right? Do not let people put this responsibility all on you and all on you by yourself. That's not loving. And as a caregiver, you will experience burnout. Another thing you might hear them say, just tell me what to do. I don't want to do it wrong. It means that they're trying to avoid being accountable. So if I'm avoiding accountability, if I feel like I'm going to help you as a caregiver and I'm going to do it wrong, then how about I just don't do anything at all? You keep doing it on your own. That's not going to work for you as a caregiver. Don't let family members do that to you. You tell them, I'll assign specific tasks. I'm going to assign a task to you that I know that you can handle, because I can't manage and do everything. So in other words, you're still going to help. You're still going to help. You should help. You should help me because you are also a family member. How about I'm busy? You're already there. They're undervaluing your time. So in other words, your time is not important. It's important to you, right? You have other things to do. We just talked about resting and relaxing, getting breaks, possibly a vacation, and then you have a family member come and tell you, you live there. There are family members who are caregivers who live with the care recipient, and other family members feel like, let me just adjust in my recliner. Other family members feel like because you live with the care recipient, you can do it all. I don't need to come over there and help you clean and cook. You live right there. You living with them. You go right ahead and do it. Well, when you have something like that, that means that they really don't value your time as a caregiver and the fact that you need a break. So saying something like being here doesn't mean I'm available for everything can be very, very constructive and open up a conversation with them. You know what? I live here. That's true. But I work full time. There are days when I come home, I cook, I clean, I bathe them, I help them, him or her. So now I need you to select a day when you can take that responsibility off so that I can rest and relax because you're getting time to rest and relax, but I'm not. And that's not fair. Even if you don't work outside the home, you work in the home, but you have the responsibility of providing care. It's not fair for anyone just to assume that you have nothing else to do. They need to be accountable and they need to be helping as well. What about the guilt-based control when they say things like they wouldn't want anybody else helping? They prefer you. Well, that's not going to help you as a caregiver either because what they need most is consistency, supported care, not just me. And that comes from all the family members. It's amazing to me how you will have a mother, and I'm just using this as an example. This is not my home, but you will have a mother and they have two or three children, and yet only one is providing care. Now, that woman raised these two or three children, and yet these two or three children can't come back and take care of the needs of one mom. And that happens quite frequently because they will try, the other siblings will try to put guilt on that one that is more frequently or maybe closer to the mom. They don't want anybody else to do it but you. And that's not fair on that person either. You're overreacting. It's not that bad. Let's see. I had to get up this morning, get them dressed, cleaned, bathed. There was a fight, a struggle because they messed up, changed the sheets, set everybody up, cooked breakfast, all this before I even went to work. Worked full time after the care person came home, had to bathe them again, clean the sheets because they messed up again. And then I had to get them to bed after they ate dinner, after I cooked the dinner. And then after that, they got up in the middle of the night, had to make sure they were okay. The other one started crying. Do you see what a caregiver goes through? And yet you're saying it's not that bad. You're overreacting. So there are boundaries that you need to set with that family member. You have no idea what I'm going through as a caregiver. So never ever say it's not that bad because my perception, my lived experience is what I'm going through now and it matters. As a caregiver, I'm telling you what my routine is like, especially if you work outside the home. Even if you work inside the home, it's constant care to the care recipient or recipients. So there are some dynamics where you have one adult person taking care of both of their parents. And that's hard enough for them too. So that's the way you could respond. What about if you loved me, you'd do this? We talked about that mom or dad guilt. Could be aunt and uncle guilt, didn't we? We talked about that. We talked about how they lay that guilt trip and they lay it on thick. They lay it on so thick, you don't know what to do with it, right? You don't know whether to walk away or succumb and just go ahead and say, okay, take my life. I sacrifice my life to care for you for the rest of your days, right? Because that guilt is so heavy on you as a caregiver. And so that's emotional dependency. And you could tell them something like, I love you, but that's why I need limits so I can keep showing up. In fact, I love you. That's why I am your caregiver. The fact that I'm your caregiver should let you know how much I love you. Because if I didn't love you, I wouldn't be doing this. I'll tell you that right now. This is not easy. But I'm actually crazy about you, in love with you. I want to take care of you during this stage of your life and make sure that you get better and that you are better. So what we're going to do is not try to run the guilt trip on me. Okay? Don't run the guilt trip. Don't tell me that I shouldn't walk away or take a vacation or rest because I'm your caregiver and you rely and need me. I'm coming back, hopefully. So let me get the downtime that I need so that that counteracts the emotional dependency. I don't want anybody else helping me. I did a video on that. I don't want anybody else helping me. Don't help me. I don't know that person. I don't know him. You might get that too, right? I don't know her like that. I don't want them seeing me like this. It's a fear of loss of control. They're dictating to you who they want to care for them. And I understand the care recipient may not feel comfortable with everybody. But if they are only looking to you and you've got siblings, grandkids, great uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters, cousins, whatever, that they know that can render care and they refuse to get that assistance from anybody else, you have to let them know support doesn't replace me. Getting additional people doesn't replace me. It protects both of us. And there's a system that we have in place in order to help caregivers set up that support system. Especially, there's a process that we talk about in one of our consulting classes that lets caregivers know how to start introducing more people into the support system for the care recipient so that it's not all on them. Because you look, I couldn't do it if it were all on me. I have a wonderful support system in place. I've had to learn, though, how to delegate responsibility. And that was my fault because for a while there, nobody was going to do anything but me. But over a course of time, I've happily let it go. And when I spend time out of the country, I can go knowing that I'm not worried about what's going on at home, right? Now, I'm going to check in, let's be real. But I'm also confident that the support system, my tribe that I've put in place, is handling responsibility and taking care of the needs of my mom. I'm taking a rest, and there are repeated requests when I'm trying to rest. Our boundary has all but eroded. I have told you that I am on my rest period, my 10, 15-minute, half an hour break, and you keep calling. I'm on vacation and you keep calling. The boundary that we put in place has now officially eroded. You're not even caring that I am depleted and exhausted. You want something, so you still reaching out to me, whether that's the care recipient or a family member who doesn't see the need or the how important it is for you to take a break. As a care recipient, they're gonna call you anyway. They're gonna talk to you anyway. They're gonna reach out to you anyway. I've left specific instructions on what needs to be done, and you still calling me. In fact, when you call me, I'm only going to reiterate what I instructed you to do. And then that's when you go, oh, okay, I'll do that. When you could have just read the piece of paper or looked at the notes that I left, and yet you call me and interrupt my vacation. So if you choose to answer the phone, it would be so easy for that to be a trigger for you as a caregiver and you to rip their head off. But I'm going to ask you not to do that, right? I'm going to ask you to do something else. I'm going to say, I'll help you at this time. And say a specific time. Right now is my rest period. Right now I'm resting. Cuz sometimes people will call you and they don't stop. You have to have those tough conversations with people. You know what? I can't address your needs right now. I'm doing something. I'm resting. I'm off the clock. I'm closed. I used to turn my phone off, right? Turn it off. But then I would sit there and I wouldn't go to sleep because I would be scared that an emergency would happen. And as a caregiver, I always need to be on duty and responsibility. One of the kids could get sick. Something could be going on with my husband, something with my mom. And I'm like, I literally have made myself completely inaccessible. And that's not what I need to do. I need to set those boundaries. But then there are times when the boundary was being eroded. I would still get called at 11 o'clock at night asking me a simple task or question. And I'm like, no, that can't keep happening. I mean, I was knocked out. And I mean, I told you all I don't sleep well. But when I do sleep, I mean, I literally was having one of those sleeps where I was, my brain felt like it was on the pillow and I was completely discombobulated when I woke up because the phone rung and just shocked me out of sleep. And I was deep in sleep. And you asked me a question like, what's the temperature? Are you serious? So we have had some boundary erosion and we have to have a conversation on how to reset that so that it can continue happening because as a caregiver, I have a life as well. And there are things that I like to do and I'd love to get my rest. Sleep is like gold at this point. At this point, my age and the responsibility that I carry, sleep is like gold. So I don't take that lightly. And then another one, anger when you say no. I keep telling, look, there's a word in the vocabulary, our vocabulary in English and in other languages that people sometimes refuse to use when they are a caregiver, and that is no. For some reason, you're afraid to say it. For some reason, you feel like you can't say it. But that is necessary in setting up and establishing a boundary. I hear you're upset, but the no still stands. I hear you're upset, and I'm so sorry for that. I'm so sorry. But no, I'm not doing it. And the older I've gotten quite, I've never been a person really scared to say no, but I think I've gotten more comfortable with saying no the older I've gotten. No, no, I'm not doing it. No, no, no. Now, when I'm talking to my mom, I'm respectful when I say no. I may not say no. I may just say another way. I cannot do that because, I still have a healthy fear of my mom. Even though she's immobile, I have a healthy fear of that woman. I'm not going to go up to my mom and say no. But what I'm going to say, I don't think I'll be able to do that, mom. Yeah. I'm still respectful. And so setting those boundaries in place as a caregiver, learning that you have limits as well to your health and what you're able to do is so important. Last one for the road. Last one for the road. I'm going to repeat this in entirety on another live, probably either early tomorrow or either Monday for those who missed it. Expecting emotional support while you're depleted. Sometimes there's a role overload. You want to say something like, I care, but I'm not able to process this right now. I'm not able to do it. In other words, you're still saying no. I'm not able to do it. You're telling them what you can and can't do, what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. So if any of this has been helpful, if you are a caregiver experiencing burnout, feel free to visit our website at hansoncaregivingconsultingservices.com. Subscribe to my channel, and then hopefully we can help you set systems of support in place where you'll be able to be an effective caregiver while not losing your identity and your sense of self. We do have some classes coming up. The first one is going to be January 23rd and then February 6th. And then the next one after that, I believe, is February the 20th. And so those classes are designed to help caregivers build support systems and learn how to communicate effectively and set those boundaries so that they're not overwhelmed and experiencing burnout. Until next time, it's been fun. It's been a minute. It's been fun. I'll try to get back on during the weekdays as well. This is your girl, Essie. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share. And let other caregivers know that we're out there because we need to be able to support other caregivers who may be experiencing burnout. I'm out.